Hello, welcome everybody to the broadcast. Do not adjust your computers or whatever device you are using to watch this fine program because I'm Eric, not Ryan Reese, joined by Ryan Finneran. Finneran, how are you tonight?
Doing well, sir. Let me try and
Good.
get a little bit of this action in here.
Yeah, a little bro action here. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
do the
there
camera
it
show
is.
off the guns.
Let's see if this is actually better. There we go. That's much
Yeah,
better.
that works. Like it.
Cool, cool.
So, right off the bat, I just want to start your opinions. Just grade and then give a rationale. Um, what is your grade for the Eagles draft?
All right, so I would go honestly right around a B minus. But I'll stick with the B.
Okay.
The reason I go with B is because the drafting of Devontae Smith, which obviously is a skyrocket to an A right off the bat,
Sure.
especially coupled with the fact that we got our first round draft pick for 2022 just by
Yep.
moving back to 12 and didn't have to give up much for moving into um, the number sorry 10 spot and
Right. Yeah.
with that, getting Devontae Smith was huge. So that was a need that we addressed. With Dickerson, I did like that pick.
Mm-hmm.
I know that he had injury issues in the past, and of course that's going to be on everyone's mind. But the key is that we have somebody that could potentially replace Jason Kelsey because every year is his last year, so we need to prepare as such.
Sure.
Um, I like McPherson, the cornerback that we drafted. I think he's got some skills and positive. He's got a high ceiling.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that. Yeah.
and then one of the other big things that I like is kind of closing out the draft with some defensive line and linebacker draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, that's why their grade would be so high. And honestly, like just handing out A's in the draft is not. I don't think that's normal. I know there's
No, I
yeah,
agree with that.
I know there's a lot of people that give A's, and there are teams that get them, but I feel like a lot of them got A's, and really their drafts weren't that fantastic. Um, I know Cleveland did have a good draft, so
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that they definitely deserve one. And the reason I wouldn't go higher than a B and why I thought B minus was because, and you and I had talked about this, Reese and I had talked about this,
Mm-hmm.
offensive line, man. You got to have depth
Right.
on the offensive line, and we got one offensive lineman in the entire draft.
Yeah. And that guy's a question mark whether or not he'll even be ready to play week one, regardless of whether or not he would be a starter. And I mean, to me, like Isaac Sayamala is probably going to be your starting left guard, even if Landon Dickerson is healthy. And Jason Kelsey is going to be your starting center. Landon Dickerson was not necessarily a pick for 2021. He was a pick for 2022 and beyond. And that's why I was okay with taking him with him being injured because you're not taking him for what he's going to give you this year. Because in a perfect world, he's sitting on the bench,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and so that's why I liked that pick. But I didn't love it in the sense that there were guys there that could have impacted the 2021 season. But I almost feel like that pick was an acknowledgement that this is not about 2021. Nothing about like what the Eagles have done is about competing in 2021. It's about setting yourself up to compete in 2022.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with one step back to move three steps forward.
Agreed. And to
Mhm.
that point, and hugely, is all of the potential first round draft picks that we have in 2022.
Right.
So we are guaranteed one. Um, we're guaranteed another just for being one of 32 teams in the NFL. And then,
woohoo!
Yeah,
Participation.
Exactly. You get a participation trophy. And then you are going to get a second-round pick from the Colts and potentially a first round if Carson Wentz plays that 75 to 70%.
Right. And I mean, look, if he plays 70 to 75% of the snaps, I think it means the Colts are a good team and that they'll most likely be picking in the 20s. And I'm okay with that. You know, you always get good players in the 20s. Oh,
Did you lose me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't see you.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm just glad you came back. I was wondering, did I scare him off?
No, absolutely not. Reese, definitely.
It's funny because Ryan Reese and I talked about this on Monday, in which this is I think we both gave it a B- draft, but with the potential to be it almost sort of feels like you graded incomplete because if Landon Dickerson is healthy and he's a big part of your team in the future, then it becomes an A+ draft. Because I mean, you could be getting what 2, 3, you're going to be getting probably 3 starters out of this, potential for 4 or 5 major contributors if I'm sorry, Landon Dickerson if Landon Dickerson is healthy. And now, granted, he's torn up both knees, an ankle, I'm pretty sure a shoulder or two, maybe he's basically if they have a body part, he's had injuries in places that people didn't know they had places. And
yeah, it's like that I've been everywhere man song. I don't know who sings it, but it's like I've been injured everywhere, man.
I've had ankles, knees, toes.
Yep.
I would agree with your assessment. The B-. I think that's a fair grade.
Yeah,
but then again, the potential.
Yes, and one of the things that during our draft special, even though we had some technical difficulties, one of the things that we had talked about, I think Reese was taking a break or something, was just the thought that the projections, the experts, everybody's saying, all right, well, this is their chance to get a cornerback. This is their chance to get some secondary help. This is their chance to get some defensive line help or linebacker. Everybody was talking about the defense. Because we secured our offensive weapon, you just instantly went to the defense. And yes, I agree in the cornerback / secondary positions of need. They were great and high.
Sure.
But the offensive line depth and the health of the offensive line, even though, like you said, just for Dickerson, he's not supposed to be our 2021 center. Our 2021 starter opening day is not supposed to be Landon Dickerson. But you can also have some guys that would be able to go on the right side for a Lane Johnson and a Brandon Brooks, who both are injury prone. Both are getting up there in age. And I mean, I'm sure that there were guys in that 3rd, 4th, 5th round that had fallen and that could have been, or maybe even should have been, 2nd and 3rd round picks. So I have just a little bit of a problem with that. You see what some of the best teams that have played in the Super Bowls have, and it is stellar offensive lines. I mean, the Patriots have done it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did it. The Kansas City Chiefs lacked it, even though, yes, I know they had some really big names injured going into that Super Bowl.
Sure, but you could tell that was the difference. Their offensive line just couldn't handle the Bucs front.
Exactly. So if you had depth and some people that were drafted and watching and learning and training, then probably would have been a little bit different of a story. I don't know if it would have been a Chiefs win, but I don't think
They've been
Pat
more
Mahomes,
competitive. Yeah.
I don't think Pat Mahomes would have been running for his life the entire game.
Well, and something we know as Eagles fans, as much as you like to say, "Oh yeah, that offensive lineman," well, theoretically he shouldn't play. We had 13 different offensive line combinations like before Thanksgiving. I mean, you don't want that in a decade, let alone in 13 weeks.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, like that, like you can draft a guy and say, all right, the idea is he's going to develop and he won't play till year 2, maybe year 3, but that's laid plans of mice and men. Like that, you can man makes plan, God laughs. Like
Yes.
there is no planning in the National Football League.
He gets a good chuckle out of it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if you remember it was called Far Side Comics, and they were
Yeah.
these great drawings, great
Mhm.
comics, and one was God kind of putting together Earth, and then he
Mhm.
has a seasoning shaker, and it's jerks written on it, and he's like, just for a little seasoning, just for a little flavor,
Just
that's
sprinkle in a couple jerks.
yep, and that's kind of what it is with our plans. Same
Right.
thing. He laughs at that and says, "I'm in control, not you. Sorry." But
Sorry, bro.
yeah. So that's the whole thing about preparation. You plan for the best and prepare for the worst.
Sure. Yeah.
So the worst is a lot of offensive line starters going down during your season, and planning for the worst is prepping by drafting and preparing for
Yeah.
the future.
Absolutely. And this is why I know we talked about it on a previous mock draft episode where we talked every draft, you should spend at least one pick on an offensive lineman. Like I'll always say, the reason why the Chip Kelly experiment failed was he spent his very first draft pick was Lane Johnson. Care to take a guess as to how many other offensive linemen he drafted the rest of his tenure?
0.
Yeah. Yeah, zero. Hence why 3 years in they pulled the plug.
And hence why everybody looked at Jason Kelsey like a freak of nature,
Sure.
because he actually had developed his skills through Chip Kelly. That downfield blocking, the running, the conditioning,
Yeah.
everything that he did, I can actually say, hey, maybe Chip Kelly got one thing right, and that was about it. And it was taking a guy
Yeah.
like Jason Kelsey and having him be able to explore the field with his talents.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll give Chip Kelly credit there. He certainly was able to develop Jason Kelsey into a much different center than I think this league's ever seen.
Yeah. And a tribute to him is my beard.
Love it. Love the Jason Kelsey beard. I tried to grow mine that way. The wife nixed that idea.
Understood.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it was all the sell job I could get to get her to be convinced for me to grow this. Now, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I'm just like, yeah, I'm thinking about shaving it off. She, no, don't shave it off. I'm like, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, so the beard grew on her. The beard, I think, is here to stay for a while.
Hopefully it didn't grow on her. That'd be weird.
Yeah, right. No, thankfully, it still grew on me.
Good. Yeah, it
No,
looks good. I like it.
thank you. Thank you. I'm also a fan of the big beards there.
Thank you.
It looks good on you.
It got it got messy and scraggly for a little bit,
Sure.
and then you have to go through an itchy phase, and after that, it starts to grow, and you just gotta keep care of it. I'm just gonna trim it down a little bit on the sides, and
Right. Yeah. Even it out.
exactly. Back to sports.
Yeah. Yeah. Enough beard talk. I know we can talk beards for hours, but
One of the things that I had a question for you about
yeah.
is with the defensive line and
Mhm.
kind of the attention that we put in the draft to the defensive line specifically.
Mhm.
Do you think that this upcoming scheme, if you will, is going to just kind of differ completely from what Jim Schwartz did, and we're going to put a lot more pressure in from the defensive line? I mean, he let his defensive line kind of
Mhm.
go, and do their thing and didn't bring a lot of extra pressure, like blitzing very often.
Sure.
But do you think that we're building more towards a blitzing line instead of like a few attacking positions and then protection
Right.
kind of thing?
Well, I mean, they're definitely going to blitz more than Schwartz did, but that's not going to be a huge challenge. They still, I don't think, are going to be a heavy blitzing team because, how much trust do you have in the rest of that secondary aside from Darius Slay? And what linebackers do you really want to bring, trusting that they're going to get home? So I think that's the issue with a lot of blitzing is they still didn't do enough to address the linebacker, and that's why this isn't a 1-year fix. I think they still looked at this and said, like, what are our main points of emphasis? And let's get a target for Jalen Hurts and then find ways to protect him. And then, like, in the middle rounds, you tried to attack guys that you thought maybe you could take a flyer on, like a Zeke McPherson, who I absolutely love. I think that's a tremendous pick, especially to get in the 4th round. 5th round, getting Kenneth Gainwell, the running back. I mean, that is just huge, huge, huge. And so I love what they were able to do. I still, not really able to address the linebacker. The safety that they took out of LSU, I think
Stevens.
Stevens. He's gonna be really good. I think whenever you get somebody who is a DB at LSU, that is DBU now, and so he was able to start at LSU. I think he's going to step in and have a huge role in this defense. And he might be a guy that, as you see the season progress, that they trust in spots where either to come up and blitz or to be trusted in one-on-one coverage while they bring extra attackers.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Rodney McLeod is actually not going to be starting this season, correct? This upcoming season?
I'm not sure where he is in his rehab from his injury.
Yeah, from the projections that I saw, he might not start. So hopefully, Stevens would have a good camp and maybe
right. Yeah, you hope he can win that job.
Yeah. I love Rodney McLeod. I think he's awesome. But he's really had trouble staying on the field. So that was a great pickup, actually.
Yeah, 2 out of the last 3 years, ending his season early.
I couldn't agree with you more about Kenneth Gainwell and how somebody like that fell kind of that far. He was really impressive in college at Memphis, and just the skills that he possesses, his speed. One of the things that I noticed was his speed around the corner. When you can break out right off.
Right. He hits that edge.
Right tackle, left tackle position. You can break out and just speed up. It's almost like Mario Kart when you hit those arrows and just that's what I want to see. And we'll see how it goes, just simply because of the pickup today with Kerryon Johnson.
Right, Kerryon Johnson. So I got to believe that that's going to be like a 3 or 4 headed backfield now. And look, this is what Sirianni did in Indianapolis when he running his offense with Hines, Taylor, and
Marlon Mack.
Yeah, Marlon Mack. Yes. Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, and I think that's who Sirianni is. He wants to be a run-first offense, and that is going to be a breath of fresh air after 14 years of Andy and the last 4 from Doug, where it was just pass, and then you just run so you because you were tired of passing for a play or two, and then back to passing.
Very frustrating.
Yeah, this is going to be a run-first offense, and that helps out a young quarterback, a developing quarterback in Jalen Hurts, who, as much as people have wanted to anoint him, and I've been hesitant to do so, almost like to the point where people are calling me a hater. But all I'm saying is that can we wait to see him develop? He's had, 4 games?
Yeah.
I'd like to see a little more before I hand him the keys to the franchise.
I mean, that's why we have talked about it before. This is a show me season. And this is great for these young guys that are coming in because
Oh,
you get
absolutely.
NFL playing time on a team that is in a transition. We are
Sure.
literally in a rebuilding phase with a team that actually looks pretty good. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
and
think we're going to be,
Mhm.
a 11-6 team, but or what is it, 11 and
Yeah, you
5?
got it right. 11-6.
No, 11 and
Yeah.
6. Yeah. So I don't think we're going to be an 11-6 team, but I truly believe that we're going to win more than the 6 games or 7 games. I think the line changed now since the draft, but
Hmm.
pre-draft we were, predicted to win 6 games. That was the over/under.
Right.
So, and
I really wish
thankfully,
I'd gone in there and picked the over before
like I
the
told you,
draft.
I placed that bet, man. I placed the bet on that over before the
Nice.
draft. So I'm
That was
excited
a
for that.
smart play, I think.
And it wasn't much. I bet $30. So,
Oh, okay, yeah.
it's one of those things like it's okay. I'll lose $30, but if I
You
win,
should faith in your
it'll be
team.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what I'm thinking is Jalen Hurts getting his time to
Hmm.
show everybody what he's got in a more relaxed atmosphere and environment, because
Sure.
yeah, of course there's the NFL pressure of being a starting quarterback. I
Mhm.
couldn't imagine being an NFL starting quarterback. I would love it
Oh,
from
sure. I'd love
the
that
I just get to
paycheck.
play football for a job
Sure.
aspect point of view, but from every other point of view and aspect, I would be terrified. Absolutely terrified.
Well, I think the one area where you'd also be good at is being an addict to the game. Like you have to be completely addicted to this game, especially to be a successful quarterback. I still remember one of my favorite stories, a story that made me like basically fall in love with Carson Wentz was early on in his career here. I think it was like after his fourth game or something. He was out to dinner with his then girlfriend, and she caught him watching game film on his phone under the table. And I remember thinking to myself, that is so awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I just like, and I still remember hearing Mike Mayock, big friend of the Philly verse, you know, saying that he and I in a conversation, which, I'm never above a good name drop. Um,
I'm fine with it. That's
yeah,
awesome.
he told me, he said, Eric, you're gonna love this guy. Literally all he does is hunt and play football. You don't have to worry about him going out to nightclubs. You don't have to worry about him. He's not going to be up till 3 in the morning playing video games. He's not going to be, drinking at the local pubs or bar, what have you. And he's like, literally all the guy wants to do is play football and hunt. I'm like, okay, like I can get down with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still sore. It still hurts.
Yeah. No, that
But
wound's still very fresh.
yeah, that that was that was somebody I invested a lot
I
of
have two jerseys in the
feelings, I
closet.
guess.
Yeah, I have two jerseys in the closet. Like I invested my emotions in him. I really
Yeah,
believe in
your
Carson.
emotions. That's
Yeah,
it. And the fact that the way things happened and how they went down, it's really rough. But
yeah. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. The whole
like
thing.
we've gone through it, we've talked about it. It still hurts, but
Sure.
we have to move on. We have to trust our new quarterback. We have to trust our new coaching staff. We have to trust our ownership. And even if everybody has an issue with it,
Yeah.
and people who still have issues with Howie, you have to understand and realize that right now that if and I sound like a broken record because I say this all the
Sure.
time, but a lot of people give me flack for it. If Jalen Hurts, Jalen Reagor, and Devontae Smith become some dynamic trio,
Mm-hmm.
and Miles Sanders,
Sure.
guess who
So
drafted all
quartet.
of them?
Yeah.
So sorry everybody, but I mean this is the guy that we're kind of stuck with. He's also fairly young
Mm-hmm.
for a guy in his position, and he's fairly smart. So I'm gonna keep him, and
Yeah, and I think we
I'm gonna
forget
back him.
that. And I think we forget that, like, he's been battle tested. Like, it's not like he had a smooth run throughout, getting, obviously high school, I'm sure he breezed through winning, all the time. But, he goes to college and he's successful at Alabama, and then just to get, replaced by Tua Tagovailoa and having to then go through the transfer portal and, go to Oklahoma and then have to win over another locker room and successful there. The guy, all he does, he shows up and wins.
Yeah, throughout his entire career. Yeah,
I mean, look, I'll sign up for that.
I'm signed up. I'm ready to see him play this year. I'm ready to see this team. There's a lot of speed on this team that I mean, people have mentioned and talked about, but you have to imagine, you with his speed just as a young quarterback, and then Rager, Smith, even Ward. You know, we have some talent in the area of quickness, and I appreciate that, especially Devontae Smith. He showed that he's a fantastic route runner, and that's something that can help a young quarterback out a lot. I really think that one of my big issues, just to kind of bring it back around to what we were talking about before with Kerryon Johnson, is that Miles Sanders is a dynamic running back. Not only is he the guy that played behind Saquon Barkley, but he is very similar to Saquon Barkley.
Sure.
Maybe not the type of elite running back yet, but we haven't seen as much. And also, we haven't seen as much simply because of the coaching. Like you said, they were not a run-first team. What was it, 70-30 almost? I mean,
yeah, pretty much. And I know, like, he liked to say, even in an ideal situation, it would be 60-40.
Yeah. So we have a lot to look for, but it almost worries me with Kerryon, with the the incoming or incumbent, I guess, Kenneth Gainwell, with Boston Scott, just the running back.
Yeah, how many carries are they going to take away from Miles Sanders?
You don't want to do that.
Right.
And hopefully the other running backs don't have big heads. And that's one of the big issues, is you don't want the running back by committee having some issues with the number one running back getting more, like, way more carries than everyone else. And sometimes that can be a problem.
Well, two reasons why I like what they've done with the running back room. And that is, one, you might be able to keep Miles Sanders fresh for late in games and then late in the season when it's real, like, especially here in the Northeast, when it gets to be November, December, and that air gets cold, it becomes a lot less desirable to go out there and tackle. And so, like, that would be a spot where teams might shy away from the contact with a guy like Miles Sanders, who is so fast. But don't get it twisted. That dude will run over you too.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like, having Kerryon Johnson, having Kenny Gainwell, and you bring back Boston Scott, like, all of a sudden, if Miles Sanders is injured, which in each of the last 2 years he's missed time with injuries, the running game basically was non-existent. Like, Washington game, the first game against Washington, Miles Sanders couldn't play. He got injured in training camp, and he couldn't play. And there was no running game. And I would say that is a leading reason why you had some of these receivers out there who, like, I mean, Hightower had no business in his first game being out there and being asked to go win a 50-50 ball against the Washington secondary, which created that first interception, which it almost seemed like that was the moment the wheels fell off for the entire season.
Yeah.
They were up 17-0 and had the ball with about 2.5 minutes to go in the half. And I thought, okay, we're going to march down here. Hell, even if we just get a field goal, we're going to be up 20-0 going into halftime. And you started thinking, all of a sudden the mind starts racing to, okay, next week we've got the LA Rams, and you start thinking about what the game plan is going to be there. But then, pump the brakes. We get a interception by Washington. They come down and score, and all of a sudden it's just a 10-point game at halftime. And from that moment on, the wheels fell off.
Yeah. And it felt like that every game
right.
for the rest of the season. I mean, we might have been up, we might have been down. Every game going into halftime, it was pretty much, I can turn off the TV now.
Yeah.
And it was a shame. But one of the big things with this draft and with what we're doing is that we have a 4-12 or a 4-11-1 season to bounce up from. We've talked about it. The only way is up, and you can manage.
Right.
You can manage what you manage, and you have to control what you can control. So we have the opportunity to control young players and develop them and give them experience. We have the opportunity to now give young running backs an opportunity to get in and get some experience. And our running back room, like you were mentioning before, is young. They're fairly young.
Oh yeah, it's very. I mean, Kerryon Johnson's going to come in. He's going to be the oldest one.
Yeah, which is fantastic considering that, and I don't like to mention fantasy too much, but even as a fantasy running back, he's a contributor. I know many people that have had him on their squad and, threw him in time to time.
Oh, yeah, I've had him on a couple squads.
I know you have. I've played you.
Yes,
and you have beaten me with Kerryon Johnson.
That's
having some random 2-touchdown game.
And it's funny because I normally never pick those right, when to play a guy, but I just got to get lucky and play him a week against you. And, it worked out.
It happens. I mean, I was just happy in this past season of fantasy to finish in a decent spot with the squad that I was inherited.
Yeah, you definitely inherited a real clunker.
But I have some upside, and then in my other league I won, so that was nice. Yeah, that was fun.
It's always fun to talk about that other league you won with somebody else. It's like, oh yeah, there was this other league I was dominant in.
I had a similar team in another league, and with that, it was in a league that I had been in. I mean, we've been in this league for almost like 8 years, 9 years now, and it's all my friends from growing up, and we talk crap all the time, and
that's the best way to do it, is to win one of those leagues.
But one of the big things that we also talked about was Jalen Hurts and his ability to be able to have that RPO.
Yeah.
And I think that can kind of become more prevalent as well, simply because of his ability to run. So
sure. I mean, when he puts the ball in the belly of the running back, the linebacker has to respect that Hurts can pull it back and take off and go with it. Like, he can't just commit to the running back. Whereas, as much as we like to say Carson Wentz was athletic, and he was, like, he wasn't just some statue back there in the pocket. But, I mean, given the choice, okay, who's going to take – like, he's either going to give the ball to Miles Sanders in that spot, or they're going to have an inferior guy running the football, and we'll take that.
Yeah.
And with Hurts, you don't get that. Now, I want to ask this question before we move on, because I know we want to talk about Sixers and the Phillies. But I said before that I thought that Howie Roseman had to basically draft to save his job. Do you think he did it?
It's a tough question, considering I wouldn't agree with the question. I think he has already. I bet Reese on the show that he would not be fired at the end of this year. I think he would be another year.
Great question from
Howard. I mean, that's tough. I mean, isn't this Howard's like what third go around with the Eagles.
Yeah, I think it right now. I would take Kerryon Johnson
Agreed.
over Howard, but I mean, there's no reason why they both can't be invited to camp, and just whoever wins the job wins it.
You're right. There is absolutely no reason why they can't be both invited.
And I mean, really, Kerryon Johnson's not guaranteed anything. His 1.3 million this year is not guaranteed. The Eagles aren't going to pay him anything. If they decide to end up cutting him, it doesn't count against the Eagles at all.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you love those situations.
Who makes that decision in that move, Eric? Who does that?
Well, the Lions, I guess, just decided that it was time to move on from him. They're going in a younger direction.
Oh no! I'm sorry. For the Eagles, who makes the decision to bring in Kerryon Johnson with such a easy way out? Who makes that decision?
Well, I'm assuming Nick Sirianni makes that decision. Just says, like, hey, I'd love to get him in here, but Howie would have to ultimately sign off on it.
It's Howie. So,
but I mean, Nick Sirianni is going to decide which one's going to make the team. But Howie brings in,
Howie brought in a guy that, regardless how he performs, we can cut and have no ties with, no money, no nothing, and he's gone.
Yep,
smart move, right?
Sure. Hey, every now and then he gets one right. I mean,
oh, come on, man.
Do I have the only Howie guy on the air with me right now?
I've argued with Reese. I'll argue with you. The guy is he's arrogant.
Yes.
But he has done right. And again, what has every Eagles fan wanted for
ever?
80 some years or like 80 years?
Super Bowl.
Thank you. And what was brought to us by Howie Roseman?
I mean, I think he had some help, but yeah, Super Bowl.
he had
I get your point. Yeah, he had BDN there to bring it home.
Yes, that was the chant. So, thank you very much for asking that question. It's tough because I will say that, it's a win.
Sure.
And I will back Howie. I will be that guy.
I love it. It'd be boring if we just sat here and agreed the whole time.
Exactly. But I usually agree with you because you have the football mind.
Well, hey, look, I brace yourself. Every now and then, I can get one wrong. It happens.
I'm on a wheelchair. I'm on a wheelie like chair. I don't want
to. Well, like, hey, last year. Now it's funny on my other show, Mike Sports. We talked about the teams that we thought would be, dark horses to contend. Last year we talked about it, and I said Buffalo and Arizona were my two dark horses, and I knocked one of them clear out of the damn park. The other one, not so much.
I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan personally.
I'm becoming less and less of one. This is a show me year for him.
There's other issues with that team.
Mm-hmm.
But just personally, I'm not a Kyler Murray fan. But I'm also not a Lamar Jackson fan. And
I'm not either.
People be like, oh my gosh, he was the MVP, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, he's not the quarterback that's going to win you the big game. So,
well, you ask your quarterback, like the number one job I think of every quarterback is to be able to read the defense. And like, I don't think Lamar Jackson even has the concept of how to read a defense. Like, I am not totally convinced he'd be great at C-spot run, let alone an NFL defense.
Understood. And agreed.
So I agree with you about Lamar Jackson. That's been one of my hot takes for a while, that I've been out on Lamar Jackson.
I mean, when you hand out MVPs strictly based on a complete total numbers,
sure,
it makes sense. The guy is a stud.
Yeah.
But when you take it on interceptions, completion percentage, accuracy as the quarterback position,
Mm-hmm.
he would not even be even close.
I
But as the
agree.
most valuable player on a team in the NFL, yeah, he deserved it.
See, this is great. We start off with the Howie Roseman discussion where we were at odds with each other, and then we bring it back to Lamar Jackson take where we are very much on the same page.
Perfect. Now,
Um,
what I'd like to
yes.
transition into somehow
Mm-hmm.
is MVP talk. So, what about Joel Embiid?
Hey, I mean, this guy, he has been playing at another level. I said 2 years ago when that god awful that awful Kawhi Leonard shot that I just don't even like to think about. Like,
Uh,
I'm sorry to put that visual in everybody's head now, but when I saw Joel Embiid and the way he was like crying and just visibly upset over the results of that game, I remember thinking about a moment where my dad said to me at the end of one of my games where I lost on a really bad play. And he said to me, he's like, take this pain that you're feeling right now, take it and make it mean something.
use it.
Yeah. And so every time when you decide, hey, I want to get 4 milkshakes from Chick-fil-A instead of doing something to take care of my body, think about what you're feeling right now. And I think, that he has taken that pain that he felt that night and has made it mean something. Like,
Absolutely.
he's just playing at another level. And like, I didn't think a big man in today's game was going to be as dominant as what he is. Like
I mean,
it's great to see that as much as like they want to turn it into a 3-point shooting contest, Joel Embiid will straight up punch you in the mouth and then score a basket, and you just can't stop him.
and guess what he'll do the next time down? He'll shoot a three.
Yeah, I know.
He'll
He
just
can sit
spike
up
you.
there and shoot threes. I've
He
been
will
making
literally
a killing
say
this
in
year on
flight.
getting Joel Embiid over 3-pointers.
It's amazing. So he is the guy that
Mm-hmm.
is the glue to this team. His
Absolutely.
personality, his work ethic, his skill level,
Mm-hmm.
his passion for the game. Everything that he brings to this team is the most important thing. And realistically, he might need to sit for the rest of the season. And I mean, we're talking about, I think, 4 or 5 games.
Right.
I don't want him to be hurt at all. Like literally,
Yeah.
they're up 70-54 right now
Yeah,
against the
they're
Pelicans.
killing it right now.
And I mean, Zion just got hurt. I mean, we could go on and talk about the Zion issue for quite some time because
Sure.
he's getting absolutely murdered in the paint. But
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about the Sixers. We're talking about Joel Embiid. We're talking about MVP. This guy is it. He is it. I mean, Steph Curry is having himself a year.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
on
he's the
that
reason why
note,
they're going to make the playoffs in the West.
and it's funny because they're a bad team,
Yeah.
and he has propelled them to make playoffs in the West. And the West is way better than the East. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things like you're talking about the Knicks at the 4 seed being 37-29, and you're talking like the Knicks. Could you name more than 2 players? I can't.
No.
From the Knicks, like
Well, the
seriously.
thing is, isn't still there, is he? No.
No, he's in Dallas.
Yes.
But I mean, yeah, he's out west. So the West just gets better as the
Yeah.
East just dominates in the top 3.
I
And
loved.
we are the top of the top 3.
Yeah, I love that when the Nets were adding players and building up. Like one of the Nets reporters was tweeting out something. Oh yeah, Nets acquire whoever, and like it was a national guy responds to him says, "Whatever, Sixers and 6." It was great.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Like we're getting like national guys just being like, yeah, whatever, I'll take the Sixers.
Yeah.
And
And
I agree with what you were saying about Embiid. Like you could just tell that when he came back after his latest injury, like once he showed that he was okay and good to go, it was like this. The whole team just had this like the big sigh of relief, and it was like everybody could just relax and they started just playing unbelievable. He brings an overall relaxation to this roster where guys just feel like they can just go and be themselves. Like I'm watching Matisse Thybulle play defense. Like I have not seen a young guy play in a long. He ain't hitting no rookie wall this year like he did last year.
so Matisse, fantastic defender.
Yeah.
Obviously a contender for Defensive Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to get the recognition because he doesn't score.
Sure.
He doesn't translate the game to the offensive side, which
Mm-hmm.
is rough for him. Ben Simmons, on the other hand, when healthy and when playing, he has the defensive and offensive side. But then again, like somebody would say to me, "Hey, Ben Simmons' stats aren't showing that he's the offensive player that you're saying." Well, he's been hurt a little bit
Sure.
in recent time. B, he doesn't need to. You're
Right.
talking
He's as
about a
good
guy
offensively
that
as they
is.
need him to be.
Thank you. You're talking about a guy that is 6 foot,
Mm-hmm.
10 inches. He plays the point guard position for a team, like an NBA team, and then not only that, he doesn't have a jump shot.
Yeah.
All that put together means he shouldn't score more than 10 points, but
But
he
yet somehow
does.
he does. Yeah.
And that is what makes him elite because he can be that defender. He can be
Mm-hmm.
averaging 9 assists a game. He can average, I think it's like 8, 7 rebounds a game, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then his points are just, over 10. So
Well, yeah, and just the
literally over
different stuff they
10
do with them. Yeah.
is the triple double.
Yeah, just the different stuff they do with them. Like, sometimes they'll have Tobias bring the ball up, and you think, okay, well, they're going to use Ben on this trip in more of a four role. And then all of a sudden, he'll just swing up, take the ball from Tobias, and attack the rim. And it's like, good luck with that. You've got that power forward going to try to keep up with him. Good luck.
Yeah.
And then another time he'll come down, he'll bring the ball up, and you'll think, oh, okay, put your point guard out there on him, play defense, and then he'll pass the ball to. I'll just use Tobias in this scenario again, and they'll run a little 2-man game, and Ben Simmons is posting up your point guard, and again, good luck with that.
Yeah. The difference that a coach makes
Yeah.
is amazing.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. I can't tell you the number of times this year that I've been like, wow, with Brett Brown as the coach, they lose this game last year.
With Doc Rivers,
Yeah,
and that bench, and the way he's been able to squeeze the lemon. That's a saying that I like to use a lot because you have an entire lemon, but you have to be able to even understand that you can use the rind of the lemon. You can use the inside. You can juice everything. Even the seeds can be planted for more lemons. So Ben Simmons is a lemon in the fact that you can use him in so many different fashions, and he will be able to provide a lot of sweetness to your team, if you will. And
I like lemonade.
I'm literally making this up as I go.
I love it. That was great.
So
you somehow turned calling Ben Simmons a lemon into an ultimate compliment.
Yeah, because everybody thinks of a lemon as a poor car.
Yeah.
But honestly, with Doc Rivers, what he's done with the utilization of the bench, with the decision making, with Morey on who to pick up, who to get, where we're going with our team.
Seems like a coach and GM that are just on the same page.
Exactly. And then you have guys like Dwight, Furkan,
Hmm.
Shake Milton. You have
Michael Scott,
George
Tobias.
Hill,
Yeah.
Scott. And these guys are contributors, and we
Yeah.
haven't had the bench prior. That was one of our big things. Brett Brown probably wasn't given the type of squad that he was given when he was in San Antonio
Sure.
to promote him to such a high spot,
Mhm.
an elevated position in NBA. So right now we have a great position in which Dwight Howard can come in to
Mhm.
relieve Embiid for the rest of a game, for a quarter, for 5 minutes, and provide
Sure.
defensive and offensive help. And it's fantastic. He's a championship winner now.
Hmm.
He won with the Lakers, so it's great. And back to what you were saying about Thibault, the guy is honestly, I mean, if they
He might be
didn't
my
take
favorite player on this team.
if they didn't take the offensive side
Yeah.
because of the differential
Hmm.
into account, this guy would be the defense player of the year easily.
I agree.
Easily.
Yeah,
Blocks,
I really don't even think it'll
steals.
be that close.
There's nobody that I've ever seen, like literally ever seen,
Hmm.
do what he's been doing.
Yeah, he definitely reaches that, and I try not to use that like, oh, I've never seen some like very often because I feel
No,
like
I've
it's
never seen
overused. But yeah, like I have never seen a guy like he'll come in and he'll clean block a shot, and they'll call a foul on him, and he just comes out undeterred. Next one, he's right back up there blocking it. Like he's just not deterred.
You remember Theo Ratliff?
Yes, Theo
He's
Ratliff was
an
one of my
he's an
favorite.
amazing defender,
Yeah.
and he played a multitude of positions. I mean, the guy
Mhm.
would guard like a 3 through 5,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, he was a 3, 4, or 5. Yeah.
yeah, so he was an outstanding defender. But
Hmm.
during that time, you have like Bruce Bowens, you had um, Dikembe Mutombos, you had the three
Ironically,
locked
Dikembe
down, you had the
Mutombo chased him
five.
out of Philly.
Was that?
Ironically, Dikembe Mutombo was the one that chased Theo out of Philly.
Yes. But I mean, like, you had the 3 and the
Hmm.
5, like, locked down defensively,
Yes.
or the 4 and the 5, or whatever. Like, the guy would never get the recognition, but overall, he was an amazing defender. And we know that because we're Sixers fans.
Sure.
Other fans don't realize that because they didn't watch our local team.
Which, by the
And
way, yeah, funny little tidbit of information. Today, the 20-year anniversary of the We Talking About Practice press conference.
really,
Yeah.
did you know it's also the 32nd anniversary of The Shot from Michael Jordan?
Oh, wow. Yeah, against the Cavs. Yeah.
Yeah. They
That
went
makes
on
sense.
to lose to the Pistons, I believe.
Right.
And, you know,
I
greatest
remember
ever.
watching that as a kid and just, like, being in awe, like, of watching Michael Jordan make that shot.
I was, I think, 1.5 or 2.
Because that was what, 87, 88?
It was 89, I think.
Okay, so I would have been 8 years old at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I was, like 1.5.
Thanks. Thanks for making me feel old.
It's time. It's all about how you feel. The way that you talk about sports,
Yeah.
you're a 21-year-old kid, man.
Woohoo!
Yes,
No,
sir.
it was great at work one time talking with another guy around my same age, and then another guy who was a little younger, and we're talking about, I say, Joe Carter ruined my childhood. And the guy looked at me and said, "Who's Joe Carter?" And I go, "Joe Carter, 93 World Series. Like, what the heck's wrong with you?" Dude,
Toronto.
dude, I wasn't born until 1992. I was a year old. And I went, "Bleep you," and just walked away.
I mean, technically, even at that time, I
Yeah.
didn't know Joe Carter. I mean, I knew the Phillies and
Sure.
all sports, but I didn't know what was happening at that time. I was 6.
Well, again, another little fun fact. Where I was watching the game at when Joe Carter hit it, and you knew it was over, the guy turned the channel. I never saw where the ball hit, and since that day, I have refused to ever see where that ball hit.
Really?
Yeah, in fact I had the World Series highlights because I wanted to video that they made for it, and whenever it gets to the end, whenever I would watch it, whenever it got to the end, I just turned it off before Joe Carter hit the home run. So in my mind, the Phillies forced the Game 7. They won 6-5 in Game 6, and I just never found out who won Game 7.
Well, it's all about Longshangle.
Yeah, I was wondering when we'd get a Gabe reference in here.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, that guy is gone from our organization. Thankfully, the Phillies are in first place.
Yeah, another first place team.
They've played a little bit more games than some of the other East Coast teams, but
right. Yeah, they haven't had any COVID shutdowns.
The NL East itself is a very tough division, and
sure,
going forward,
because you got to believe the Braves are going to figure it out at some point. The Nationals are going to figure it out at some point.
I don't worry about them at all.
Really?
The team that I worry about is the New York
Mets. Yeah, because they got so much pitching, and if they can ever figure it out offensively even a little bit, they're going to be dangerous.
Well, I mean, 1 every 5 games you have not only your Cy Young winning pitcher, but the guy can hit.
Yeah.
DeGrom can hit.
I mean, it was like maybe, I guess 2 years ago, I heard the stat that if the Mets had just scored 4 runs in each of DeGrom's starts, just 4, he would have won 30 games that year.
Just 4 is that's really rough.
And if they had scored 3 runs a game for him, every game just 3 runs, he would have won like 25 games. Instead, his final record was like 15-14. That just shows how little, like it was criminal how little run support he got, and it's still that way.
Thankfully, baseball is different than a lot of other sports in the fact that he still won the Cy Young. Because that guy, I truly believe that he is the best pitcher in baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
I think
in my mind, he's the best pitcher I've seen since Greg Maddux.
That's great. I mean, he just tied Nolan Ryan's record for strikeouts in a certain period of time.
Right. In his first, 4 years? 5
years, I think.
5 years, yeah.
He tied Nolan Ryan, one of the best pitchers of all time, if not the best.
Dude, if you tie Nolan Ryan in a record, like one of my fun exercises to do, and this is always a good time to spark debate among your friends. Put together an all-time baseball team, 25-man roster, and just say, okay, your 5 starting pitchers, your 11 relievers, your starting 8. Like, to me, like, Nolan Ryan, Greg Maddux, are 2 of the guys. Obviously, Walter Johnson, Cy Young, the other 2, and then it's come up with who do you want to be your 5th starter?
Satchel Paige.
Okay, I would do. I always lean towards Bob Gibson, but yeah, that would be another good one. I mean, you can't go wrong with a lot of these guys because when you're talking about the all-time 25-man roster. Now, another trick I'd like to put in that was always everybody has to have that role that they would be. So you can't just be like, oh, your starting outfielder, like 3 amazing center fielders. It's like, no, your starting left fielder has to have been a left fielder. Your center fielder has to have been a center fielder. And then your bullpen can't just be, like 10 starter or like 6 starters that you just now put in the bullpen. It's got to be guys who they were relievers. And it can't just be 6 closers. You have one guy, he's your closer, which obviously would be Mariano Rivera.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah. And then you come up with your all-time greatest setup man, your all-time greatest like left-handed specialist. Like To me, I think that is just one of those fun exercises. Everybody who's a baseball nerd like us, get together with your other baseball nerd friends and talk about like what your all-time 25-man roster. That would be a fun assignment.
Oh, that's great. You know what? I'm going to work on that when I'm in Disney this week. I'm going to have some free time here and there.
Nice.
I'm going to work on that.
I think we do a 3-man show here in a few weeks, and we talk about what our all-time 25-man roster would be.
Oh, that's awesome.
It would be great. The three of us debate it. It's not we all come up with our own. We have to debate and justify. Have those guys you're pounding the table for to say your 25-man baseball roster.
Yeah.
And then I think we should do it again with the 53-man roster in the NFL. I think like this would be fun, especially during the times like the dog days when we're waiting for football season to start.
It's a great period for it.
Yeah, for those like Mount Rushmore debates. And real quick before we get out of here, because I know we're running a little long here. We're about an hour in. But I'm just going to ask this question. You can give as short or as long an answer as you want. What went wrong with the Flyers this year?
Leadership. Leadership was the issue. I think it's stale. I think it's like
time for a new captain.
Like trying to put together a sandwich on stale bread. Like you've got the right ingredients, but the outside of that sandwich is stale, and it's not going to taste right. It's not going to feel right.
The meat can be as fresh as you want it to be. Like the mayo can be as good as you want it to be. The lettuce,
lunch meat can be fresh.
Yeah, freshly cut lunch meat. But if that bread's stale, that sandwich sucks.
Yeah, I don't think it's Elaine. I don't think it's Vigneault.
No, I don't think either. You think it's G?
I think it's G. I think it's Voracek. I think it's Coots. I think it's.
And I think that started to be a problem at the end of last year when like those guys in those leadership positions struggled on the restart. And I wanted to just kind of tuck it away and say it was because of COVID and because of the restart and how they were just uncharted waters, like being asked to stop and then restart like that. But I also feel like it almost felt like what we expected last year, what I went into last season expecting, we got this season. And what we got last season was what I would have expected this season.
Yeah.
And
no, I can see that.
Because last season, if you had told me, hey, they're gonna have some, stretches where they're playing pretty good, I would have believed that. If you would then come to me later on and said, oh, yeah, and they're going to have stretches where they just look like they don't belong on the same ice as me, I'd have believed that too, in the 2019-2020 season. Now, in the 2020-21 season, if you would say, hey, they are going to be playing lights-out hockey, and at one point you're going to believe that they are the front runner to win the Stanley Cup, I'd have believed that too.
For this Flyers team?
Yeah. Like at the beginning of the season, I would have said, hey, I think there's going to be not necessarily they're going to win it, but that there's going to be a stretch where they're going to be playing so well that you believe they could be a Stanley Cup championship team.
Do you base that off of the performance of Carter Hart?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't have good goaltending, then you're not anything. Like I think the goaltender is as important to hockey as the quarterback is to football.
Carter Hart is an amazing goalie.
Yeah.
We have awful defense.
Yeah, and I've been the biggest fan of Ivan Provorov. He has been awful. Like the second half of the season, he's been awful.
You're right, but he has the talent and skill.
Oh no! I'm not saying get rid of him.
No, you're right.
Saying he's been awful. Yeah.
I started off by saying you're right because you're absolutely correct. There's no reason to think that Provorov or Provy is literally one of the best defenders on our team. There's no reason to think otherwise. But you have to imagine that Ghost is I was going to say Gostisbehere, but Ghost, he has underperformed.
Oh,
And
sure.
then
Yeah. Ever since that rookie year, he's really underperformed.
you also have to take into account that certain players that have come in and also underperformed have
Hmm.
affected the leadership. So, I mean, listen, you have your guy on
Hmm.
defense. Say it's Privy,
Hmm.
and he's trying to talk to the team, and a guy like Ghost is dismissive. How does that feel for the team?
Well, it becomes divisive and it becomes
Exactly.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
So that is how, from what I've talked to people about, like
Hmm.
we were saying earlier, the leadership on this team is not holding everybody accountable. So you have G, you have Coots, you
Hmm.
have JVR, you have
Yeah.
uh,
Vortex.
Voracek,
Hmm.
you have uh, I mean, those are offensive players mainly,
Sure.
but they're leaders.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, and hockey's unique in the sense that, like, look, in football, like, Brian Dawkins was never going to go to Donovan McNabb and be like, hey, you guys aren't carrying your weight. But in hockey, it's different. Like, a Claude Giroux could go to the Sanheims, the, Gustafsons, and guys who really let them down this year and say, hey, you guys aren't carrying your weight.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, and that's what a captain does. It's like, look, man, like, you don't always have to be everybody's best friend. Now, you don't also have to be the guy that, pounds the table and, throws it over and is this big, pile of energy. Like sometimes, like some of the great leaders, and when Giroux was at his best as a leader, it was he led by example. But he's not the player he was 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like, I talk about the moment against the Penguins in the playoffs where he takes it after they lost 2 games in a row. They were up 3 games none, lose 2 games in a row, and then right off the opening faceoff, he basically pimps out Crosby and goes down and scores. And I'm thinking, man, where's that guy? And then I think, well, that was 9 years ago. He's not the same player he was then.
I had season tickets during that 9 years ago.
Oh,
It was
yeah. So
awesome,
you were there. You saw it. Yeah.
dude. I saw the entrance into the playoffs in the 2000. What was it? 10?
Then, yeah, against the
Yeah.
Rangers when they
Oh yeah, I watched that live,
nice.
and I pounded on that ceiling. Oh my goodness, it's
Nice.
amazing. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's an accountability that
Mm-hmm.
these veterans have, and I truly believe that they're not showing it. They're not they're not holding this team accountable. And I
Right.
also believe that it's because of their record. I mean, they have no shot of making the playoffs
Right.
whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. They're mathematically eliminated now.
I mean, not now. I mean, it was like three
Oh,
weeks ago.
yeah. But I mean, look, even 2 months ago, you knew this team wasn't making the playoffs.
Yeah,
Like,
they had no will, they
yeah.
had no fight, and that coach is a good coach,
Yeah,
and that's a
and
shame.
I do like that. That's kind of been echoed all because normally I was just waiting for the vultures to come out and do, oh, fire the coach. Oh, Vignay stinks. He was overhyped and he's underdelivered. But even I think the casual Flyers fans have been like, no, I don't think this is on Vignay at all. This is on the roster.
Yeah, for sure, because he has the foresight to say these are adult men,
Mm-hmm.
and they can make these decisions to push forward or revert back. Like it's up
Yeah,
to
and they've
them.
been reverting.
They have been reverting. So,
All right. So
one more,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to talk about well, we talked about the Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, and the Eagles.
Yeah, we touched on all of them.
So, real quick, what do you think about the Union?
They have some kick ass uniforms.
Thank
Like
you, Eric.
I
Entertain me.
was like, wait, I figured you were going there, and I'm like, crap. What do I say about the Union? Kick ass uniforms.
It's
I
all
do
good.
love the jersey. I do love a good soccer jersey, though. I'm just like, I enjoy watching the World Cup. When it's on, when the World Cup's on, I can't get enough of it. And I used to always think it's like, man, like I could like soccer's great that you can just tune in at any point and you probably hasn't missed much. But when I watch a good soccer match and it's like I watch it from the beginning all the way through, it's like I don't even notice that I spent 3 hours there watching it. Like it's like the time just flies by and I'm like, oh, I thought it had been 20 minutes and it's like we're at halftime and it's been an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
A
I
lot of
I
fun.
do love a good soccer match and like to anybody who would sit there saying, "Oh, well, you can just turn it on at any point." It's one. No, you have to watch the ebb and flow of the game to really understand what you're watching, and so you really do have to tune in from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch Man City versus literally the Union,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be a good match.
And the thing is, it's like if you just saw the score and it's like, "Oh, it was 2-0." Well, no, you don't understand. Like Man City beat them like they stole something, but the final was 2-0
Yeah, I mean,
because you
it
just
should
watch the
have been
action
like
and you watch it
7
like,
nothing.
yeah. like you said, yeah, that 2-0 might as well be 7-0 or 17-0 because of the way that they can just move up and down the field. You getting a visitor?
Yeah, I have a visitor. Hey, come here.
Yeah, bring him on over.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Hello.
How's it going tonight?
Good.
What's your take on the Philly teams?
Uh,
You like Philadelphia sports, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's a big fan of all the Philly sports. He's also a fan of West Virginia.
Yes.
Okay.
His father and his father's family went to West Virginia, so he's a big West Virginia U
Mountaineers.
fan.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, good for hey. I had
Yeah.
a cousin who went there for a semester, and
Oh, there you go.
came back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loved it. I told him he had to get me out there to a West Virginia UT game, but he didn't stick around there long enough to get me there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Disappointing.
I know, right? It's like out
And
there.
that's
How do you
like
not like
the
Morgantown?
prime game, right? Isn't it?
Right.
UVA, Cavaliers versus the Mountaineers, right?
Well, I wanted to get out there to a West Virginia Texas game because I'm a huge Texas Longhorn fan.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, for my time living in Houston, I figured I had to adopt one team from that area,
Hook 'em.
and yeah, hook 'em horns. A funny story about that. I became a UT fan to basically piss off this person that I was working with, who was a big Texas A&M fan, and so I became a UT fan. And then that year on Black Friday when Texas A&M played, like Texas beat them like 77-7, and I just the whole time like she was getting all upset. I'm hook 'em horns, and then I just adopted them as my team.
If you mess with
And
the
now I don't
bull,
even talk to that person.
when you mess with the bull, you get the
Get
horns.
the horns. All right, everybody. I feel like that is a great way to end it. That's a great way to go off.
Great way.
Everybody, thanks for joining us. Ryan, thanks for commenting and joining it. And Finneran, always a blast. The hour and 15 minutes, and I feel like we could sit here and talk another 3 hours.
I would love to.
I would too, but I have a feeling I'd get, a scowl. The wife's already been in once to be like, "Are you almost done yet?"
Dude, it's 8:40.
Yeah.
I have to get on a plane at 7 a.m. So
Yeah, I
I'm
do not have to
excited,
do
man.
that. Well, in a
Awesome.
couple of weeks, I am going to. I haven't told anybody on here yet, but I'm going on a road trip with a couple of my cousins across the country to Los Angeles. We are driving there because my cousin, who owns his own mechanic shop, buys and sells cars all the time, and decided he would raffle off a car to someone. And part of his deal was wherever you are in the country, he will hand deliver the car and the keys to you. And this guy spent like $200 on raffle tickets and won this Chevy Cobalt in the raffle. And he lives in Los Angeles. And so we are driving out there to hand deliver him this car.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I know. I can't wait. It was funny on, God, I guess it was Easter. I told the wife, and I said, hey, I want to go do this with my cousins. And I thought for sure she was going to be like, yeah, right, buddy. You ain't doing that. And much to my surprise, she was like, well, which cousin is it? I'm like, oh, it's Ari. She's like, oh, all right, with him you can go. She's like, if it was Jake, you can't go. I'm like, well, Jake's going too, but I may have just whispered that you can hear me.
Nice.
But yeah, so I get to do that in a couple of weeks. On May 20th, we depart. I will keep everybody posted. I will send out videos. That Monday, we may ask you, Finn, if you're able to do the Football Smack Talk show with them. Brian does not know this yet, but you could be.
You broke up a little bit in there, and I missed some portions of what you said, but I will be here for you. Just text me. Let me know what you need me to log into, anything like that. Even if I'm in Disney, if I'm here, anything, just let me know.
Thanks, man. You're the man. Well, have fun in Disney.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everybody, have a great night. Have a great weekend. It sounds like you won't have as great a weekend as this guy will, as he's going down to Disney. And everybody bro out. And I know you guys like to do your little, your expression. Yeah, have a good one there, bro. Tater chip.
You too, bro. Tana.
All right, everybody. Great night. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to check out all the other shows on the Phillyverse. And have a great night and go Birds.
Go Birds.